Hi, my name is Matthias, and I am the founder of Santim, where we help customers from Africa open a US bank account through Prime Trust and also help them have a crypto custody. So my experience in the crypto space has started around like 2016, late 2016, where I learned about Ethereum and Bitcoin. So most of my experience was like, trying to understand, okay, what's happening. Initially, when I heard about Bitcoin back in 2014, I don't have like, enough experience about like how the financial system works. So it was really hard for me like to understand what was going on. I kind of felt like, it was another PayPal. But in 2016, where I was able to learn quite a lot about like, the fintech system and how, money works in the world. That is where like, I had my aha moments. So yeah, after that point, I started like learning about like ICOs and invested in some companies and trying to understand what was happening in the space. So but after like the 2018 crash, I was able to learn more about like stable coins and worked for Reserve Protocol to help them expand their business in Africa. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with Reserve. They've been mostly working on stablecoin solutions in Venezuela, where their currency has been going down like, really like crazy. And one thing I learned through Reserve is, which I also agree what Lou Kerner mentioned earlier, when people start using like crypto without really like understanding or knowing what's happening behind, I think that is where like the real revolution is happening. So yeah, when I worked with Reserve Protocol, a lot of people were able to buy dollar using Venezuela Bluever without really knowing that there is like something called crypto behind it. So I think that is like the kind of revolution I would definitely expect in the coming years, where people use different apps. It could be NFTs or it could be like stable coins behind the scenes. So yeah, I think beside that, I also got the chance to explore a little bit about private blockchains like Hyperledger, and I got the chance to work on managing like a couple of networks for one company I worked in the past. But my interest fall back into like the public blockchain, where I get the chance to explore Ethereum and Bitcoin mostly. Yeah, I think yeah, that's what I have, and definitely I would be happy to share more of my knowledge in stable coins and different other subjects later today. So I'll be very excited to see you all. Thank you.
We're talking about decentralized finance DEX right now, and so we have a great panelist of Felix, Robert, and Sahabia with us.
Hey, thank you.
Just want to moderate?
Yeah, sure. I can take over. Hey, Matthias, are you still with us? You're still here for a discussion, right?
Yes, I am here. Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I can also take the moderation. No worries. Everybody, hello. My name is Felix from Dash Next specifically. As you know, Dash is a decentralized organization. There is not really one Dash, but there's many sub-organizations working for Dash. So we are one of them, basically running all the things here in Asia, business development, partnerships. So happy to be here, and happy and excited to talk about DEXs and DeFi and what is happening there. Lots going on. Robert.
Awesome. Yeah,
thanks. You want to say something?
Yeah, thanks, Felix. Just to briefly introduce myself, I'm the marketing director at Fuse. Give you a bit of background. First of all, I started out my career in enterprise tech, enterprise tech, so selling big software implementations to large companies before getting into Web 2, working for a company called Trustpilot, which is a consumer review company. Recently did a big IPO on the London Stock Exchange, which is surprising to see, given that when we started out, back in 2013, we'd raised $10 million at the time. What we were doing at the time, I mean, what I'm getting at here is that it's crazy to see the speed at which innovation can happen, and the change in mentality about new products and services. So when we worked with Trustpilot back in the day, and we were calling companies to say to sell consumer reviews, essentially, we thought we were crazy. And now 7 years later, it's $1 billion company or $1 billion IPO company, and it's completely normal, the idea that you would buy a service around consumer reviews. And then I got into the crypto space around 2021. So yeah, 4 years ago, I got heavily into the crypto space, worked on an ICO. In 2017, worked for Cointelegraph for a year, traveled extensively, which was fantastic. Traveled all around Asia, met Felix in Malaysia in 2019, met a bunch of people. And now I'm working with Fuse Network, which is we've built a full infrastructure essentially. So we're a layer 1 EVM compatible blockchain. We've got DeFi services on top of the platform. We've got lending. We've got a DEX, and then we've got what we call the Studio, which is a B2B product, which allows anyone that doesn't have coding experience to come and build out their own payment-centric community on top of the platform. And from that has come multiple real-world implementations, stuff like Good Dollar, for example, which is a UBI project. They've got over 40,000 daily active users. We've got another project, Collectivo Labs, which is a regenerative economy project in Curaçao. So we've got multiple sort of real-world implementations built on top of the platform. And then a few months ago, or the start of this year, we started building Fuse Cash, which is a consumer-facing app. So we've added on to our to the sort of stuff that we're doing, from doing B2B, now focused on the consumer market, and building an app, a mobile wallet for a DeFi-focused mobile wallet, so that people can send money anywhere in the world, but also integrating themselves with those same services. So the DEX integrating lending, or the ability to earn APR within the application. And yes, it launched a few weeks ago, and that's our focus, let's say, or one of our focuses moving forward, to grow that consumer facing mobile app. So that's me in a nutshell.
That was a nutshell. Thank you, Robert. Always happy to hear what are the updates. Amazing what you guys are pulling off. Sahabia, hello. Tell us about you. Sahabia, right?
Sahabia, is that next, right?
Sahabia, do I spell that right?
Yeah, hi everyone.
Hey.
I'm Sahabia Yakubu from Ghana, that is West Africa. And nice to be here with you all. So I've been a cryptocurrency enthusiast and promoter since 2017. When I was in the university, then I got introduced to this, then I became very passionate about it, and I started promoting it, trying to enhance the knowledge in Africa. I started from my school, letting people understand what this technology is and what they can benefit from there. And then I joined the DeFi space in 2018. That was, I joined MakerDAO community in 2018 and became MakerDAO ambassador for Africa in 2019. The same year I founded DeFi Africa, when I realized that DeFi was a trending topic around that time, and then needed Africans to also get involved in the space. I founded DeFi Africa, and the main focus was to promote the adoption and usage of DeFi services in Africa. So that is my main focus in the space, is outreach. And I've been MakerDAO ambassador, organizing events and running several other initiatives, trying to get people involved into DeFi and then the use of stable coins such as DAI stablecoin. So briefly, that is what I'll say about myself. I joined late. I will not say much.
Thank you.
All right.
So yeah, great to have you all, guys. Dash, I mean, I hope you know we're like an OG in payment since 2014 in the space, and we also don't want to we want to explore what is going on there, and we're doing that quite intensively. Especially me, I've really fell into the rabbit hole, and I would say 1.5 years or 1 year ago into DeFi. And I gotta say, it's a big learning curve. And maybe that's one first thing we can talk about. It seems not only for me, but kind of everybody who has his first DeFi experiences is quite a struggle. And you guys are all kind of telling or running projects that are really like involving people and communities. So, what is your approach to explain people MetaMask, or like what would you improve? What would you wish for? Robert, you want to start?
Yeah, no, good question on MetaMask. I think the answer on that, I think, what are we talking now? MetaMask, they put out a report at the end of last year saying they got to 1 million users, which was awesome. I think that DeFi right now is around 2.3 million users, maybe. I think it was Kathy Wood over at ARC that put a report out recently saying 2.3 million users. I'm assuming, I haven't looked into it, but I'm assuming that most of that is MetaMask. It's pretty good, right? It's pretty good for the users that you're trying to attract. The next stage is, how do we get to 10 million? I don't think it's with MetaMask. I think it's with mobile. I think it's about integrating, going to the next stage. Now we've done, let's say, the early adopters. How do we now get to the early majority? And I think mobile is the way that we do it. How do we allow people, everyday people, to benefit from we're not talking the same crazy upside. I mean, the incentives in DeFi right now are crazy. But how do we nonetheless allow the next 10 million, the next 100 million people to benefit from this new democratized liquidity provision that we've got from DeFi? So I think mobile is the answer, basically. I think that we need to make things easier for people to use, reduce or remove friction where possible, and mobile is the way to do it.
I guess we all agree on that. The question is, how, for now, what I'm seeing, and it's kind of a funny thing, everybody, like, there's all these blockchains launching, there's one project coming after another, and every time you have to do something else in MetaMask, it gets even more complicated, and sometimes it's even more complicated than just setting up MetaMask. So is there any short-term solution? What do you think? Have you tried anything?
I don't think we use, like I said, I don't think it is about having MetaMask necessarily. It's about, why do people use MetaMask? They use it because there's a huge incentive to do so, right? And most of what is happening in DeFi right now is about incentives. And that's been the same, just going back to what Lou was talking about earlier, when you're talking about like the early stages of Web 1, and how adoption came about for various different technologies. I'm not sure if you've seen the social network, right? So like what we're talking early 2000s. And there's a point at which he's built the product, right? The infrastructure's in place. He's a genius. He understands how computer technology works and the infrastructure. He's built a great UI and a great user experience for the time, right? Maybe not so much now, but it was great UI and UX for the time. It's not easy to do, but he doesn't want to launch it yet. For some reason, he hasn't launched it. Doesn't know why. And there's a point at which he realizes that he needs to put in place like a dating functionality or something that related to dating. So like, are you in a relationship? And he realized that was the big incentive that would make people want to download to join Facebook. So it's the same here, right? We're seeing the same thing. One of the reasons why people are using DeFi is because of the incentive. How do we now incentivize the next 10 million people to use it? It's not going to be with like 2,000% yield because it's not sustainable, but they can still get something that's way better than what they've got with their current banking solution, which is what, like minus 5% when accounted for inflation, or let's say like 0.5%. So I think the stable coins are really interesting over the next few years. I think that if we're talking very specifically about what we might see for the next couple of years at least, is a lot of people adopting stable coins, putting them into mobile, into DeFi apps, essentially, whatever that might look like, and getting much greater yield than they might get with their banking solution. Some would argue that is the opposite of what we're trying to do with crypto. So strengthening the dollar, which is what you do by buying stable coins, is the opposite of what we're trying to do with crypto. But in fact, what it is, it's just the transitionary phase that we're going through, right? So I think that very specifically, one particular thing is going to be, for the user, buy stable coins, put it into an awesome mobile app with an easy user interface, and get, let's say, 5% yield, which is pretty good to start off for the everyday person.
I agree, and we see a lot of services popping up that kind of do that. Matthias, what is your perspective? How do you, get users in? How do you explain it? I'm sure you have lots of experiences in that.
Yeah, sure. So for me, like when interacting with DeFi protocols becomes as simple as like sending an email. So I think that I feel like that would be the point where we'll see mass adoption. So for example, let's say if I use MetaMask right now, where I can easily put like my, let's say like debit card or credit card, and then I can purchase the cryptocurrencies I want without caring about like the gas fees or, a lot of like the frictions. I think that's the point where mass adoption could come. It could be like on a mobile, as Robert mentioned, or it could be like on a browser. And then right now, for example, like L1 solutions on Ethereum, we have like a lot of gas costs, right? But if, let's say, MetaMask was able to integrate a way to run those kind of transaction on L2 solutions like Matic, where the price could be like really low, maybe like I'm paying a couple of dollars per transaction. I think that is where I would see a lot of like, mass adoption. Yep.
Sahabia, what are your experiences to explain the world DeFi and your friends?
Is that for me or Sahabia?
No, Sahabia.
I think I'll just be saying exactly what others have said, because that is the issue here. People would like to use a service because they feel that they can benefit from it maybe more than or better than what they have been using previously. So if DeFi applications are able to implement like what Mathias says, if they are able to implement something on the getting MetaMask on L2, that is the Matic protocol, in order to reduce the gas fee. Because as we have been here trying to promote DeFi for people to use, we realized that in the past year, when gas fees just skyrocketed, we realized that a lot of people have shied away from using DeFi services because of gas fees and many other things, for instance, user-friendly. Some of the DeFi protocols actually newbies cannot get involved because when they come, they seem to be very technical. So there's a way when DeFi protocols try to come up with user-friendly applications that people that are not trying to get involved, and also trying to solve the gas fees problem by bridging into these two services like Matic. It's a way for us to get people involved in DeFi. Thank you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it's very interesting actually to see all these different blockchains popping up, and obviously all of them need a DEX, because it's not that just that there's one DEX to rule them all, it seems. Just looking at the numbers here, I see, Uniswap or on TVL on Ethereum, 60 billion versus $20 billion on Binance, and $1.5 billion on Uniswap, and a lot more on Pancake, actually $3.3 billion on PancakeSwap TVL. So it looks like, PancakeSwap is not winning the race. I wouldn't say that, but it was surprising for me how fast the growth was. So it seems like their Binance has something to bring the users in. So what do you see, from all these different blockchains, which one is right now leading, and why, and how will that look like in 1 year? Robert, do you want to start?
Yeah, I think that's what excites me most about this space. It's what I enjoy most, is that we have no idea what things are going to look like in a year's time, right? There's just so much uncertainty. Things are going to change a lot, I think that's for sure. It's once again, it's once again going back to the comparisons between the early days of the web, which is like, where's Lycos right now, right? Where's MySpace? So these are I think we know that finance is going to improve and be better, and what we're doing right now is making finance more democratic. I don't want to use a overly sort of cliche word, but it is making finance more democratic. The problem is we live in a society which is said to, or in the West at least, which is said to be democratic. But then I think we've lost Felix. Oh no, he's still with us. We live in a society which is said to be democratic, but then the platform on which that runs, which is a financial system essentially, is run by a centralized structure. And the trick to getting ahead essentially is getting as close as possible to that centralized structure, that being the centralized bank. And the closer you can get to that, then the better you can essentially do. With this, what we're creating now, we're decentralizing everything, which forces everybody in society to provide value. So yeah, that's the vision that I see. And I see, I'm very sort of optimistic about what this technology is doing, what Uniswap has done, what Hayden Adams did with Uniswap, for example. And obviously, we've been trying to do decentralized exchanges for a long time, and then just liquidity protocols in general is amazing. The innovation that we've seen. So we've got a general idea of where we're going. What it will look like in terms of which brands are leading or which products are leading, I couldn't say. And Fuse essentially, right? Maybe it's Fuse network. It's interesting to what's happening with Binance Smart Chain with Polygon right now. But it's a constant race, right? We're going to see new brands coming up, new blockchains taking over in terms of let's say activity, network activity, in terms of market cap, etc. So buckle down basically for a crazy ride over the next 5 to 10 years. It's going to be wild.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of funny for me to see, I got to say, especially in the last 6 months, everywhere so many DEXs are popping up. And basically there's like, every time one new project pops up, like Matic, there's immediately like 1 or 2, and it's really a race for the leading role. And it seems like on all of them like that. But it's not that from user side, you can go somewhere. What I'm kind of observing now is that there's a lot of projects who want to be the meta layer to integrate all these exchanges in whatever cross-chain way they're building right now. So I guess I'm excited to see that, honestly, and especially how it turns out, because there's seems to be a lot of problems when you consider transaction fees from one chain to another and how you solve these problems. So it's a complicated thing. It's kind of funny because if we really visualize it, like if we're building this financial Lego castle, it's obvious that you build one layer and then okay, we now actually can build something on top of it. So that's what really gets exciting for me.
It comes with in terms of the congestion problem, which leads to transaction issues. Obviously there's layered, there's different solutions. Obviously layer 2s, there's other layer 1s and whatnot. It just comes with building out more. People often use the analogy of a city, right? So like Los Angeles is often backed up for miles in terms of traffic, and eventually people have to move out, essentially go and go elsewhere. So there's different elements to this. There's layer 2s, which is more infrastructure, or there's other layer 1s, which is more infrastructure. But it's about building enough for everybody to be able to function, and increasing speed and whatnot.
Mathias, what are your thoughts?
Sure. Yeah. So I think I would take, for me, like whichever protocol has like a good community of developers and passionate people building in the space. I think that is where I see as a long-term vision, which could have a probably a better solution. So I think I've seen PancakeSwap and the BNB, the Binance chain space. I think sometimes a lot of us only care about fees at the moment. I know I understand that it's better to get a better fees when you are making transactions. But right now, for me, it feels like Ethereum and Bitcoin has a very good run in building that developer community. I think the other project I am also passionately trying to see how it evolves is the Solana ecosystem. Even if I don't fully agree that it's fully decentralized yet, but I have a feeling that ecosystem is slowly gonna grow. So I think which we're gonna talk later about, like, building communities. I think like focusing on a mission of, like, community rather than only, like, a like few founders ideas. I think it would take us much more further. Yeah, that is, like, my opinion in the growth of, like, the DeFi and decentralized exchange. Yes.
Totally makes sense. Sahabia, what do you think?
So when you look at the space, just recently, I've realized that with the finance matching in existence, a lot of Africans are now, or people that are scaring away from the high fees on Ethereum, are getting involved in finance matching. So like Mathias said, we have to focus on the final consumer. So DeFi applications, when they focus on final consumer, means that we have to look at what is keeping people away from using these applications. And if it is about fees, if it's about the user interface or whatever, that is what we have to focus on, or protocols have to focus on. So I've seen that many people are getting involved in the finance matching because they realize that it currently has lower fees for them to involve. For instance, recently there's this Zen Finance in Africa. In Zen Finance in Africa, I've seen many people trooping in Zen Finance because they are seeing that there is something that's aligned with their beliefs, or something that is very easy for them to get involved. And when they come involved, they also see that fees on it is something that they can bear. So I think we have to focus on that community, and then looking at the end user, what they can actually do with the protocols.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And you name many interesting points there. One issue I run in often from a project perspective, that trying. I mean, we are our own blockchain, and obviously it's my goal to be on other chains as well, and that the way you do it is by having wrapped assets. Right, so it's basically the same. Every project that is launching on one chain has to have an asset, and then you make copies on different blockchains. But the issue you always run into, that like in an order book at the normal exchange, you need liquidity. So this seems to be for many projects kind of a big issue, because how many of these DEXs on different chains can you afford? Right, so there's now a lot of ways of kickstarting communities with yield farming campaigns, but how do you see that? In my kind of opinion, from seeing what is happening right now with many projects, especially this liquidity issue is the one of the biggest ones for getting really traction on these DEXs. Because if you look really in details, it's not many pairs where all this liquidity is, and it's really hard to kind of kickstart all this liquidity that you usually just go to a centralized exchange and pay market maker to do it. Right, so kind of, I mean, Robert, I guess you started that. I mean, like, what is your strategy there, and how do you play the liquidity game?
So you can't just focus on one thing. You can get liquidity, right? You can get liquidity providers to bring over liquidity to your platform, and you can incentivize them short term. And a lot of projects, or most projects, if they're smart, they're doing that. You need to be doing everything else as well. If you're an infrastructure, if you're, let's say, a layer one play with other products built on top of it, you need to be ensuring that you're building out the infrastructure. You're doing anything to enhance the decentralization of the platform, to enhance the scalability of the platform, to make it easier for projects to build on top of the platform, to ensure that you've got a vision which involves long-term growth, and ideally that means that you've got real-world implementations on the platform, and that you're providing something which is sustainable. We're seeing a lot of stuff right now, which we know as soon as the 1000% APY incentive is taken away, it's going to go to zero, not even within weeks, but literally within hours, right? It will just go like straight away. So how do we create that long-term sustainability? And the answer is that you need to ensure that you're part of an ecosystem which is doing everything, not just focusing on bringing loads of liquidity. It will look great short term, and people will get rich as well. But to the liquidity begets liquidity, brings more liquidity, brings more APY, it brings really good incentives. But there's one, that long term it's going to disappear, and two, you're sort of living with that anxiety as well of knowing that ultimately there's no real foundation to what you're doing. It's just short term. It's just short term speculation. So the answer is that you need to be building a real. I think from my perspective and our perspective at Fuse, is that you need to be building a real infrastructure, a real ecosystem that's that's designed to last long term.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's like, as always, right? There's many pieces who have to be right in order to execute something properly as a crypto project. It's not only the initial hype or initial yield farming campaign you run or quick incentives you give, because money has often no emotions to your project, right? And it's kind of the connecting the money to your emotions is, I guess, the trick to make this really happening. What is your experience, Matthias?
Say it again. What was the question?
What is your experience? Like we were thinking about how do projects solve that issue of liquidity? If you want to be at Binance Smart Chain, you want to be at Uniswap, you want to be at Pangolin or whatever other exchanges out there, you always have to fund the first liquidity pool. So what's the project strategy to do that right? And what is your experience there?
Sure. So I think like having a very consistent API throughout the year could be a good incentive. So I think we have seen a lot of DeFi projects. They come up with probably 100% or even 1,000% APIs, but they don't last even for more than few weeks. So I think having, even if it's a smaller amount, having a competitive but a sustainable API is something good. And then I think the second one would be maybe trying to give a way liquidity providers can configure maybe the percentage they can take. I'm talking about probably not the 7, maybe 10% APIs, but for example, if you are a liquidity provider in Uniswap, where you can get, let's say 0.1 or 0.2%, but as a liquidity provider or as a community, you can have a way to configure that when the market changes. I think that would be something powerful to have. Yeah, that's what I believe in.
Sahabia, how do you play that liquidity and APR game? What are your experiences or best practice to share? Sahabia, are you with us?
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't have much to say about the liquidity issue, but what I would say is we need to provide, if we have best interests on the liquidity pools, definitely many people will chip in with their funds, and that is how we can improve liquidity. For instance, if we have a liquidity pool where people come in there, they can earn 5%, and when they lock that same funds in their bank accounts, they will not get even 1%. Definitely, when we have people, or when people get to know that this is the best place to get best interest, definitely people are coming. So the community has to be able to know that DeFi applications are providing good or better rates or tools. And definitely the people are coming because that is the best place for them to earn. Yeah. So that's what I would share.
Probably we'll also have 2 more minutes left. So I think there's one question from the audience. You wanna take that, Felix?
You mean the user experience question? Okay, we were discussing that a little bit before, but you're right. The user experience is a challenge. I mean, let's see it from a positive side. If you have this little bit nerdy passion to get into things, there's YouTube, and it's, if you really sit down for 2 hours, you got it. And if you really click the buttons, you get it, but you need to invest these 2 hours. So this is for me the positive message, how to get into DeFi. it's really a challenge because, you know, if you read about it, you will not get it. If you don't click the buttons, if you don't have the challenge to solve, you will not get it. So try it out. That's my 5 cents. Robert, what is your tip?
Yeah, but by the time it's easy to use, the upside potential, and I don't just mean financially, but just in terms of your own growth opportunity, your own learning opportunity, won't be as big, right? By the time everybody else is using it, you'll just be another adopter. The poor UI, let's say, at this stage, or the not amazing UI at this stage, is also the opportunity, and it's been the case for the last 10 years in crypto. Those that have had the ability to sit down in a dark room for a couple of days, for a weekend, and try and understand what's going on and fall down the rabbit hole, are those that are, you know, that have been able to maybe find a position within the industry, or to to build their own product. Those that have really sort of sat down and understood it are those that are able to get involved and benefit from crypto and DeFi in general.
Yeah. Matthias, your quick suggestion on make DeFi easier.
Sure. I think one of the issues we see not only in DeFi but in a lot of projects is managing, like, your private keys. So I think a solution to have a better way of, like, managing keys would be like the key I would believe in. So I don't know if you guys have seen like this project called argent.xyz. I think they have, for example, like a way of like retrieving your private key through like a community or like a social mechanism. So for example, you can add probably like trusted members into your app, where in case if you lose your private keys, but you still can reach out to like your friends, like your trusted friends, I think you'll have a way of retrieving back your private keys. So I think good solutions in that area could help not only like DeFi space, but the general crypto space to have a better user experience.
Cool. Sahabia, you want to have the last one?
If I would say something, I'll agree to what Matthias and Robert have already said. So user experience, user experience is very important, and I think not even DeFi applications, but every application that is electronic, if you make user experience better, definitely people can get, because those who are technically inclined are very few, and we have a community made up of a lot of people, and majority are those who are not technically inclined, that is the tech savvy. So user experience means that everybody can get involved, both technical and those who are not technically inclined. So to make DeFi better for people to use, I think we've already mentioned this user experience, which is important. Also working on gas fee challenges. And these gas fees, not just, I think there's now a lot of DeFi applications open in the Binance Smart Chain, but the issue we have now is the Ethereum blockchain. For Ethereum, DeFi applications on Ethereum blockchain are only used now by huge holders. So those who can move huge amounts of funds, and gas fee wouldn't be a problem, you can cover. So those who are, let's say, just getting involved with their funds, they are definitely still afraid to lose money, or to lose so much huge money on gas fees. So user experience and gas are the two things I would say when worked on really going to get people into DeFi.
Thanks for sharing. Couldn't agree more with you all. And lots of other topics to discuss, but no more time. So sorry everybody for the confusion about the moderation. I hope I could take it with interesting questions. Thank you guys for your interesting answers, and have a great day, everyone, with the conference.
Thank you, Felix. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Felix.